Good evening, everyone. I'm Annette Insdorf, the lucky person who gets to moderate the Real Pieces series at the 92nd Street Y. My day job is teaching film at Columbia University, and I'm glad that many of my students are actually here tonight. So, one of the very best films that I have seen this year is A Real Pain. It was selected by film festivals including Telluride, New York Film Festival, and Sundance, where it won the Waldo Salt Screenwriting Award. While I regret that we are not able to show you the film in its entirety tonight, I'm hoping that the combination of discussion and clips will entice you to see the film when it opens on November 1st. It was written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg, the playwright, author, and actor, Oscar nominated for The Social Network. His other film credits include The Squid and the Whale, Now You See Me, Café Society. He co-stars with Kieran Culkin, best known as Roman Roy in the HBO series Succession, for which he received the 2023 Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series. He has starred in such indie hits as Igby Goes Down and The Dangerous Lives of Altar Boys. A Real Pain is a comic as well as dramatic road movie that goes through parts of Poland that represent heritage tours for descendants of Holocaust survivors. I think that I'll share with you just one of the reviews, a piece of it, because they've been glowing. This is David Rooney in The Hollywood Reporter, who wrote, "It requires emotional acuity and generosity of spirit for a filmmaker to mine painful history while provoking subtle access pathways for audiences to find their way in. Eisenberg does that with soulful maturity," unquote, unquote. Before Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin join me on this stage, we're going to show you the first of the clips, which is from the very opening of A Real Pain. See you in 2 minutes.
Sip my...
Well, I think you got a few fans in the audience. That clip that we just saw, it not only introduces the characters of David and Benji, it feels very kind of improvised, spontaneous. I was curious when the film began, did you two do a lot of rehearsal, or was there improvisation once you were in the space of the airport or the hotel?
I think we started shooting the day after I got up to Poland. You'd been there for a while. We did a quick table read and a little dinner, but we just started going into it. Like, I think there's nothing, everything in there is scripted. Yeah. What we just saw, right? Yeah,
Kieran just has like this naturally wonderful spontaneity, and so the way we kind of were shooting the movie was to try to just capitalize on this thing that he does so brilliantly, which is just kind of like, just react. He's incredibly alive. So I think rehearsals, probably would have deadened something about this.
Okay, because later we're going to talk about the fact that these two are also major theater actors, and they have done so much stage work. This felt like it wasn't staged or staged.
Yeah, very different.
Was that the hotel? Sorry, was that the Hotel Victoria in Warsaw?
Wait, is that Sofitel?
Sofitel, yeah.
Yeah, Sofitel.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I just have to admit to everybody here that one of the reasons I was so drawn to this movie
was the Sofitel.
I'm the daughter of Polish Jewish Holocaust survivors, and every time that I have been to Warsaw, which was 4 times so far, I've stayed at the Hotel Victoria, which became the Sofitel Victoria.
Yes.
And so when the film began, I go, I know that lobby. I never had weed sent to that lobby for myself.
But now you know you can.
Not my speed, but I recognized it, and I immediately felt, again, authenticity of space as well as everything else.
Yeah, I wrote the scene for the Radisson, and then we went to the Radisson to scout, and they were like, no, absolutely not. And so,
really? They just said
I'm
no.
like telling them the nature of the scene, and then we get weed from behind the counter. And they're like, no, no, no. So that was our last resort, but it's a really nice hotel.
Yes, it is. Yeah. I recommend it highly to anyone going to Warsaw. Now, I gather this film was sparked by a trip that you took to Poland 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that led actually first to a play, a stage play, The Revisionist. It played off-Broadway with you
One person.
as a different Dave. What's that?
I said one person saw it.
Oh,
Yeah, I know, yeah. That's one more than I expected, thank you. Also, it's my mom.
You played a character named David, but quite different from the one in the film, with Vanessa Redgrave as a Polish Holocaust survivor. That was 10 years ago, more or less.
More.
Or a little more.
Yeah.
So at what point did you decide that this should be also the roots of a film? And why did it take even that long? Didn't you feel right then and there that this could be a movie?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that. Yeah, of course. I tried to adapt that play into a film and was just immediately, aware of it being impossible because, plays, my friend and I always joke that plays, you're allowed to have like 4 spoons and 1 couch on stage. That it's just like such a limited, space and a limited scope, and that plays work really wonderfully when there's almost like a claustrophobia to where the characters are stuck on stage together. And so I was trying to kind of like force the play outside, so to speak, like get these characters outside, and then it lost the spark of what was really special about having this kind of claustrophobic experience of these 2 people stuck together in this small apartment. And so it just didn't work, but always in the back of my mind, I wanted to do a movie in Poland. Obviously, as you mentioned, I have a deep connection to the country, and then I just thought it would be so wonderful to set something that feels like an American independent film, like an American independent buddy story, but against the backdrop of something that is so much more fraught than anything I could kind of mine or excavate from their personal tensions.
Yeah, that comes through. And Kieran, you had just finished wrapping, I guess, the 4th season of Succession when Jesse offered you the part. Did you have any hesitations about playing Benji, this, sort of charming but a man-child, gregarious to the point of embarrassing?
To a what point of?
A man-child, gregarious to the point of embarrassing.
Yes, great, yes. I should be ashamed of myself and embarrassed for portraying such a character. There wasn't any hesitation. I read it about a year before we were supposed to do it, and it was an immediate yes to me. But I did have some hesitations about going in once it actually became real, and we were supposed to fly out to Poland because I had just finished a very, very long season on the show, and I kind of just wanted a break. So Jesse wasn't aware of this, but I spent a good amount of time trying to get out of doing the movie. He was, wonderfully unaware, blissfully.
Up until 2 weeks away from shooting, really.
Yeah, I didn't quite know you were out there, but you had been out there for a while.
Yes, when you're making a movie, you go out there first.
Scouting, you said you were buying clothes,
Yes, we
buying
did
wardrobe.
all the things. Yeah. When a movie starts shooting, it means that 6 months of other stuff has already been done.
By you, primarily.
Yeah.
You think I know that after like 35 years, but I just, I was tired.
Yeah.
I need to rest.
Now, is it true? I heard that originally you were going to play Benji.
Yeah, I mean, it's the cool role, it's like it's the role that an actor would like to do, and then, I'd also played a similar character in a play. Actually, the character's name was Benji, and I wrote it for myself to do a character like that. And then one of our producers is Emma Stone, and she obviously has more experience on set than any of us, and produces her movies now. And she just said it would be such a mistake to play this kind of unhinged character who's just kind of acting spontaneously while I was also trying to manage a set, and she was exactly right. And then also I would not have done, in retrospect, it's lucky because I wouldn't have come close to what he does in this movie.
And you also have, I think, mastered the characterization of the slightly nervous, nebbishy even, the character who pauses.
Where you draw on that is what she's going to do.
Just from waking up.
No, but I think that the way you inhabit David seems so fluid and consistent with some of the other parts that you've played in other movies.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that, and I know it sounds probably nuts, but I just don't perceive myself the way that maybe the public does. I think it's probably just maybe as some kind of I don't know, existential bomb for me to think I'm so different. I don't know why. It's just hard to like kind of conceive of yourself the way the public might, because you think of yourself as a full person, and then there's like a two-dimensional storyline where you're just part of some other context. So I just don't think of it that way. When I was writing the movie, I was just thinking about all these feelings I have about other relationships I've been in, and thinking about how my character feels about Benji, this character who's so comfortable in his own skin, but at the same time maladaptive in some ways. And I was just mining my own personal feelings about relationships, you know, as opposed to, for example, thinking about myself as this kind of uncontextualized individual navigating the world. I was really just thinking of it in concert of this relationship.
Sure. But also, I gather this is pretty personal. Your ancestors came from Poland,
Yeah.
Russia, Ukraine, and I'm guessing that this was a personal thing for you to deal with, going to Poland.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about, I mean, for example, you won't see a clip from this, but at one point you realize that the main destination for David and Benji in Poland is their grandmother's ancestral home. And I gather that you actually found the ancestral home of your aunt, Dorrit, and that is where you shot the scene.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So in 2008, my wife and I like kind of backpacked through Poland. We did pretty much the same tour that the characters do in this movie. And my goal in that tour and that trip with my wife and I was to see this little house that my father's Aunt Doris, who became like my kind of mentor in life, so to speak, lived. I told her if I ever got a job in Europe, I would find this house and take a picture for you. And so I went to this house, and it was amazing. It was like a long journey to get there and to navigate it and to figure out where it was. And you know, the streets are, everything has 17 consonants together and no vowels. And so like, by the time I got there, I was like standing in front of this thing, and it just had this emotionally anticlimactic feeling of like, I should have this deep connection to this building, and I don't, and it was kind of exhausting to get here, and how long can I possibly stand in front of this thing without attracting attention? You know, and we're thirsty, and so it just, it was just this weird, like, confusion, and I had always wanted to, like, play with that, with just the idea that, you know, anytime we seek out these big feelings in life, they're quite different. Maybe they're more, maybe they're less, but they're always a little different than what we expect. And so the characters do wind up there, and then there's kind of this unexpected scene that occurs at the house. But it was great to film there. You know, we have locations people. When you're working on a movie, you have like a team of locations people whose job it is to just like basically barge into any house or building and tell them that, hey, we're going to film here now, you have to move. And so like, I mean, they're very respectful, but we went in and you pay them for the day or whatever, and like, you know, so I got to go in the house. It was just crazy. And yeah, it was just kind of this sweet looking old apartment, you know, it's 3 stories and probably 200 years old. And we did one shot from inside the house, and it's touching.
Yeah. Was there something that you like connected with when you got to do it that time as opposed to when you went to go visit it in 2008 when it was like anticlimactic? Was like when you got to go in, was there like a nice feeling of it, or was it more like were you still sort of work-focused?
Work-focused. It was so
really
surreal. Yeah, you know, when I'm writing the script, I'm sitting there, I'm at the library, I'm kind of like, you know, feeling all the feelings, because it's impulsive and it's the first time. But by the time, like, we got there, you know, I knew it was going to rain at 5:30.
Right, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. We were supposed to shoot till 7, but now we lost an hour and a half because of the rain. And then it was just like, you know, you're just in, like, this work mode. So I was constantly doing scenes, like, that were cathartic and that were based on my family and everything. And it was just so hard to, like, emotionally latch onto the thing that I was hoping to illustrate in the movie. My hope is that the audience feels the thing that, in some ways, I couldn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're going to show another clip now. This is when Benji and David are getting on a train in Poland. And you'll be able to sense pretty clearly the dynamic between these two cousins. If we can have clip 2. This is, clip 2. This is My Country is the name of the clip. We can actually see it right over there.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. That's great.
Now, I would love for the two of you to talk about the challenges of shooting and acting this rapid dialogue that you're having while rushing down a corridor of a moving train. What was that like? Did you have to do many takes?
No, I mean, I really can't say enough good things about Kieran as an actor, but I also cannot say enough good things about Kieran as, like, he memorizes scripts looking at it once, and he's word for word. And you see in the movie that fast pace is the pace we wanted to do it, and he's nonstop talking. He has 10 lines of dialogue from my one, and he would look at it, and he would say, okay, yeah, I think I'm ready to go. And it would be note, word perfect. I've never seen it in my life.
Fun.
And not only word perfect, brilliant.
Oh,
like truly
thanks.
brilliant. And something about him, like doing it so quickly, allowed for him to be spontaneous because he wasn't like sleeping on it. He wasn't having like a night of like, oh, what do I do in this train scene? It was just this spontaneous, brilliant, emotional, witty thing that occurred with seemingly effort that was hard for me to place. It wasn't the normal effort I'm used to. I don't know how you do it.
That's nice. It's, I'm gonna bat that shit back at you. It's not, because it's not easy to do when it requires a lot of extra work in the writing, when it's there and it's fun to do. It's like, oh yeah, I read that, last month. This is fun. I was looking forward to doing this. Let me just look at it. Yeah, great. It's because it's there and it's fun and I get to play that off of you. So yeah. Also, yes, the talking fast somehow makes it easier to learn.
Wait, why?
I don't know. It's something about like getting through it and going, fuck, did I just do that? Wow.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it just makes it roll sort of faster. And also, like, we're walking through a train fast and just throwing things back at you, and I don't know. It just happened. It
was remarkable.
Yeah.
Because you're like Benji is the instigator in this scene with Jesse being the director beyond the frame, but following you within the frame.
Yeah.
So there's this another kind of doubling or encircling. The Chopin music that we hear there, it's another reason that I love this movie, because you use Chopin as the primary musical backdrop, and from the airport scene straight through. At what point did you make that decision?
Like 10 pages into writing the script, I thought it'd be great to have this thing with a Chopin score so that some of the silliness of our antics can be offset a little bit by the history and sophistication of classical music. Chopin is, of course, from Poland. The airport is named after him. We go to the airport, and so you see his name, so it's embedded in the story. But I basically just started writing the songs into the script, and then it started changing the writing too, because I'm thinking like, oh, actually, it'd be great to pad this thing out because of the emotion that this song is bringing to it. And then on set, I would give the song to the cinematographer, so he'd be on the dolly, and I would give him my phone and play the track, and then I'd go in the scene, and I'd say like, this is the pace, this is what's going to be in the movie, and it is. And it's also good when you're writing a movie and there's like more, like our producer is here, Ryan Heller, who's like runs the financing company, and he's just a wonderful producer. And it's also a little trick that you can do as a writer. If you put it in the script and they like the script, you don't have to like argue about maybe adding a pop song later on. Thanks, Ryan.
Well, one of the things that I found utterly remarkable on my 4th trip to Warsaw was my husband and Mark and I, we would walk through Warsaw and see these benches, marble benches. Every time we sat down on one of the benches, it played Chopin.
Oh, yeah.
And this, I thought, I'd never seen or heard anything quite like that. Warsaw is a very cosmopolitan city, but you can sense just from that what Chopin and his music means to them.
Oh, yeah.
It's an absolutely defining aspect of Polish heritage.
Yeah, the average, musical person like knows the pieces.
Yeah. I don't think we have that in the United States, actually. No. And this scene made me wonder, especially for Kieran, is Benji, because this is the title, is Benji a real pain to David and vice versa? Or is there a darker level, namely the genuine pain that your character must feel? Because ever since the death of their grandmother, which is why they're taking this trip, Benji's character is kind of unmoored emotionally. If you can talk about that.
Yeah, I guess because he's also the kind of person who can't really hide any feeling he's having, sure, he's experiencing a sort of general pain that people do, but when his grandma, he loses her, he feels like he doesn't really have many people in his life, and he just basically burdens everyone around him with that kind of pain or anything else that he's feeling.
Yeah.
Right. And these two cousins who grew up together, like they've drifted apart over time. And so now that she's gone, he feels like he's lost this person and kind of feels very alone. So, you know, he's trying to have fun on this trip, but I think he's also grasping pretty desperately to a friend in a sort of backwards bullying kind of way. Does that make sense?
That's perfect.
Yeah,
that's it.
That works. Okay, we have a clip now. This is from when they're part of a tour. The tour has a few other characters, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But as they walk through the city of Lublin, I started feeling this real, not just authenticity of space, but the absence of the Jewish lives that were there decades ago. And the film actually addresses this head-on by the end of the clip. So if we could have the third one, it's about 1 minute and 17 seconds. Okay. What really grabbed me at the end of the clip was this black and white Jewish map that was underneath where they were walking.
It's long.
And it's really there.
Yeah, it's incredible.
A little part of me wondered, wait a minute, was that created for the movie?
It's incredible. In Lublin, which is a historically important city for Jews, there's this like canal, and on the side of the canal is this long, how long did it take to walk? It's like a 3-minute walk, maybe?
I didn't know it was there till after we shot it.
Got it. Got it, okay. Yeah, you don't have to admit stuff like that to me. But there's this like mural that's basically just like this really long street of what it looked like 150 years ago.
Yeah, it's I don't know, a palimpsest? It's something that struck me so deeply that I wanted a whole other scene to take place. I wanted the characters to be aware of it and interact with it.
I wanted Kieran to be aware of it.
But that's one of the aspects of the film that I find so touching. It could have been just a kind of psychological portrait of two tension-filled siblings on a trip, but you really capture the sense of place. Mm-hmm. And I know of many photographers and filmmakers who have tried to give a superimposed sense of what existed once upon a time before World War II, especially of Jewish life. Some of you may have seen a year ago Steve McQueen's Occupied City, which is a 4.5-hour version, and I don't think it does in its running time. It doesn't have the power of the sort of half a minute that I saw here, and including the whole clip where it's the voiceover of the tour guide who's played by Will Sharp, giving the context.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah, it was cool. It was kind of there was a part of a fluke to it. As you saw, the actors are not in those shots. That's because we couldn't get the actors in those shots. And so originally it was conceived that they're visiting this thing and they see and everything. And so but we couldn't do it. And so we had a second unit. It was really weird, actually. I just went on like ChatGPT and I said, tell me all the addresses in Lublin. And it was like mostly wrong. But I was like, tell me all the addresses in Lublin that used to be important historical sites for Jewish culture. And it was like mostly wrong, but it was kind of like, it inspired me to think. It was like, this is bakery was here, and it's not. But like, it got me thinking like, oh, maybe we should look for a bakery. And so anyway, so we did those shots and then we did that voiceover. It was a little bit, that is the one part of the script that felt like a little bit amorphous because I didn't know what we'd be able to shoot there because we were on such a tight schedule. But it turned into this thing that I love, which is really just this eerie but bittersweet montage of lost life, lost culture, lost buildings in this beautiful town.
There's one other film I'll just mention to you and to the audience that perhaps the best documentary I've ever seen that tries to do this is called Photographer. And it was made by a Polish director, Dariusz Jabloński, in the late 80s, if I remember correctly. It's about the city of Lodz. And he juxtaposes present-day Lodz in black and white with color slides of Lodz during World War II, because these color slides were discovered in a Viennese bookstore.
Oh, wow.
It is an amazing document. I actually showed it when I was teaching Holocaust cinema in Roundtable. But that is something that is worth seeing. It's magnificent. Yeah. Okay, the next clip is going to show the entire group, the tour. And maybe before we watch it, you could tell us a little about the casting of the secondary characters. For example, as Marcia, you have Jennifer Grey.
Yeah.
And I have to confess to everybody, I did not recognize her from Dirty Dancing. Afterwards, my husband, he said, you know, that's Jennifer Grey. What? And she's grown up. And Dirty Dancing is kind of indelible in my mind. I'm sorry. And could you just talk a little about that casting?
Yeah. So the characters are going on this, as Kieran says, this geriatric Polish tour, So we're going, with two kind of suburban people from Shaker Heights, a couple. Jennifer Grey's character is recently divorced. She moved back to New York, and she's kind of going through this existential thing after a divorce, and she decides to connect to her mother's roots, so she comes on this thing. There's actually a character that's based on my friend Eloge, who survived the Rwandan genocide, moved to Canada, converted to Judaism, and then became a kind of a Holocaust scholar. So there's a character based on him. And and then the tour guide is played by the brilliant Will Sharp, the British actor, who's what I kind of referred to in our initial meeting as a bit of like a philo-Semite, somebody who's like obsessed with Jewish culture for no reason, And it's like that kind of person who's like over-eagerly asking you about your culture, and you're like, seems somehow fetishistic. But so it's that, and what's great about the tour group is that Kieran is such a live wire and such an unpredictable kind of agent of chaos that everybody reacts to him in different ways, but he ends up like opening everybody up because he's just this magical sprite.
Make him sound like Caliban in The Tempest.
That's what I based it on. Yeah, no, he is that kind of almost, he has that feeling.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, Kieran, here you were in Poland doing a heritage tour of did this constitute your sort of first awareness of the Holocaust? In other words, I assume that this was not something that you had known or thought about much in the past.
Well, I mean, like I hadn't been to like this kind of, I've never been to Poland, first of all, so I've never done these kind of things. Jennifer hadn't been to on any of these tours or been to a concentration camp either. I think a good amount of us hadn't.
But she had ancestors who had to
Yes.
see Europe, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, she did.
Okay, well, this scene that is taking place in a restaurant in Lublin focuses, I think, very much on your gifts of all kinds, physical as well as verbal. You'll see. You'll see in a moment. It's a short clip, and we'll talk about it afterwards. You'll see.
Okay. Grown man saying pee-pee time.
Pee-pee time, yep.
I mean, could you talk a little about the scene in terms of what it reveals about the gregarious but not very stable Benji?
Agree to disagree. One thing I do want to mention about that scene, which doesn't really have anything to do with anything except the burp, which is that Jesse had written in that I chugged this beer while everyone watches, and it would take a while. And I probably chugged over 20 beers. And then, as you saw, non-alcoholic, obviously, yes. No, I wouldn't have been able to stand it. Worth mentioning, that's true. And that's where the burp comes from, is all those beers. But he cut the chugging of the beer.
Cut it down. It's not my fault, but our editor, Rob Nassau, is here, and it's Rob's fault. Where are you, Rob? Yeah. So take it this direction.
Is it really? Was that what it was? It just didn't piece, or you just didn't like it?
No, we loved it, but it's 10,000 things that we're taking into account. I don't know.
Okay, all right. I'm asking to all I know is I tortured my body for half a day and burped, and you were like, let's just get rid of it. It's like, we'll leave the burp, but we'll get rid of the beer. Like,
you never keep something in a movie because it was tough.
Right, okay. Fair.
I have to quote from a review that Owen Gleiberman wrote in Variety after watching this film, because I think the context he provides for what you do is pretty accurate. He writes, "The film presents Benji as a version of the magical pest character, the one played by Bill Murray in What About Bob, Owen Wilson in Yumi and Dupree, and Adam Sandler in That's My Boy. The hellacious man-child the world would shun, only he turns out to be the life of the party. Benji has the personality of a hipster slacker crossed with that of a corporate dick."
Okay. I have notes, but okay.
Owen Gleiberman writes really well, and his take on films is about as close to mine as I know. But that, for me, gave a context and helped me understand a little bit of why it works so well. I mean, well, it's your acting, it's your directing and writing, but that's how it struck me anyway. I don't know if you have any response to that.
I like that. I love What About Bob. That's cool. Embarrassing.
Okay, we have one more clip. And this one is a little darker, it's slower. It's set in the concentration camp of Majdanek, the former camp, which is, by the way, 5 minutes from Lublin's city center.
Literally, yeah.
And I wanted us to see this clip because it's part of the other tonality of the film, because it's extremely comic at moments, but has a real poignancy at others. Okay, the last of the 5 clips.
Sure.
Okay, could you talk first of all about the decision to have the actors face the camera as each one walks by?
Oh yeah, sure, thanks. Yeah, and it's really the only time that we use any kind of stylization like that. Just because I wanted this section to feel pretty distinct from the rest of the movie. There's no music, obviously. There's almost no dialogue. And I just wanted it to feel a little bit more subjective for the audience, like we're on this tour with these people. Simple was the goal. Simple, if you're gonna show something so dramatic, images that are immediately conjuring all sorts of horrible feelings, irrespective of your knowledge of the history even, it just felt to me like simple. And then for that shot, for when they're looking in the gas chamber, it just felt like, I don't know, it just felt right. It's hard to exactly articulate why you do a shot over another. It just felt like, where else are you gonna look? If they're looking off to the side somewhere, it just feels distancing in a way that's, I guess, more natural, but in some ways just diminishing the power of the image. I guess that's what it was. We just wanted to do it as simply as possible. Even in the script, I think I wrote as simple as possible, like just to make sure that even readers know that this is not trying to dramatize images that do not need dramatization.
That's right.
That's how it felt when I read it too, and I appreciated that as just the group walks into this room and they take in the room, and then the group walks into the room, and that's how we shot it. And I really appreciated that. It never felt like we weren't on a set or anything, we were there.
And what was the effect on you? I mean, just confronting the actuality.
Well, it's hard to put that into words, I'd say, but the one thing I would say is I did appreciate that there was no, it wasn't a set. We were just, I feel like a lot of the setups were practically lit as well, and we just sort of walked in and you take it in. I still don't really know if I have the words for what it was like, but we just went in there and saw it and shot it.
I think it is so effective precisely because you insisted on that simplicity. I remember, I think it was the great French director Jean Renoir said, the more emotional the material, the less emotional the treatment.
Yeah, exactly.
And I even got the feeling that you didn't do a lot of takes here. I mean, what was your shooting ratio on that scene?
Yeah, wow, what a particular question, and it's exactly right. Yeah, it was like we shot no footage. Yeah, we had 2 cameras that day. We had 25 extras. We ended up not using the extras. Because again, that felt like design. It felt like movie-ish. That didn't feel right. And then we had 2 cameras that were getting, we had a secondary camera that was leapfrogging the A camera that was shooting, essentially just stills, but filmed stills. And then, and Rob and I in editing room sitting there going like, yeah, a lot of this doesn't feel right either, just showing footage because we, can get it? I don't know. It felt like, no, this has to be just the most austere thing. I mean, it's why a lot of these movies that take place in this kind of, or with this topic feel just somehow cloying or exploitative or just, I don't know, heavy-handed, academic, sanctimonious or something. And like, it was just like what I was constantly trying to avoid, because when you're making a movie about this subject, it's just like the drama is already there, and the more you impose your own drama on it, the more it diminishes from the power of relation, the powerful relationship that an audience can have with it.
Oh, that's absolutely right. And by the way, the choice to have no music, because, hey, there's a lot of Chopin in the film, but what works here is, I remember it was a European director who once said that if you're putting music on a scene that's connected to the Holocaust, it's like putting ketchup onto what is otherwise a very good steak. It's like you don't need it, and it's only going to distract, as opposed to giving you the stark feeling of being there.
Exactly, and also what are you trying to what are you trying to achieve? What is the achievement? I don't know. It feels self-congratulatory at that point. Sorry, I get upset because I just feel like the presentation of this subject matter just feels so often, I mean, you're the expert, but it feels so often like irksome. I don't know.
I agree. I wrote the first book about film and the Holocaust way back in 1983 called Indelible Shadows. And already then, I was so, frankly, harsh with classic American films like Judgment at Nuremberg and the Barry Van Frank, simply because they trotted out the violins. I just kept feeling manipulated by the score.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I went in the opposite direction, seeking out European films that refused the sort of typical melodramatic emotion button pushing thing. And one of the things I love about A Real Pain is Chopin or silence.
Yeah,
you don't
exactly.
need, you don't need anything else. Was it hard to get permits to shoot in Majdanek?
Incredibly hard. I wrote the script. We sent it to a Polish producer, Eva Puczynska. She produced Zone of Interest. She also produced Cold War. She won an Oscar for Ida. Greatest Polish producer. And the first conversation was like, oh, I saw there's a scene written for Majdanek. That's $1 million build. Which the implication was you're never going to be able to shoot there. And if you want to build the set, it's $1 million, which is a third of our budget. So I was like, okay, well, we're not going to do what? Wait, can't we just shoot there? And then so I just started reaching out to people on my own, including my dad, who's here. He knew somebody who worked at the Holocaust Museum in DC. I wrote them a letter. Hi, is there any way you can put me in touch with the people in Majdanek? Anyway, it was over the course of like 8 months or something. Finally, we got in touch with these people, and from there, it was just the most amazing experience. We worked with these young academics. These are not like older, bureaucratic apparatchiks who run these places. These are like young academics. They're not Jews. Maybe they are, but that's not who we were working with. And they are just people who like dedicate their lives every day to driving, parking their car in a concentration camp, going into their office and trying to honor the memory of not their families. It's a beautiful thing that they do. And so we worked with these people, it was just amazing. Like I asked them, like, have you translated any testimonies from survivors? They did, so I got to use some of their testimonies. You hear James, it wasn't in this clip. The tour guide, he's just a snippet of him reading a testimony. That was translated by my now friend who works there, And it was like so inspiring, especially because I don't know how people here feel, and forgive me for being like, I don't know, something kind of controversial, but I hear all the time in New York, oh, the Poles are anti-Semites, and I just had this like completely opposite experience. First of all, I'm working with like a crew of like 150 people who are all putting down everything, working 6-day weeks, crazy hours to make like my Jewish American kind of fantasy, fiction, whatever, a reality. And then these people who work at these camps, and the people who work at the Poland Museum, the people who work at these monuments, like they're just dedicating their lives to honor my family's history far more than anything I've ever done. And so I just really started to have this amazing feeling. And, it was that experience really with those people that really did push me to try to get Polish citizenship, to try to connect to the country more greatly, and I did. Or I get it in like 2 weeks or something. But like, I just had this overwhelming feeling of warmth to these people who have done so much for my family.
Yeah. No, my experiences confirm what he's saying. Every time that I went to Poland, I was shocked not to receive any sense of anti-Semitism. And in fact, I met so many young Polish Gentiles who are working at the JCC Krakow, volunteers, who are working at the Poland Museum of Warsaw, which is about to have its 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
I got the sense that there is a tremendous philo-Semitism, at least in the major cities. I can't speak for the outlying areas, but within Krakow, Warsaw, and Łódź, I felt nothing but, oh, you are an American Jewish person whose parents were survivors. I mean, they just wanted to talk to me and reassure me that Jewish life goes on in Poland. It was remarkable.
Yeah, same.
And we're going to take in a moment questions from the audience, but is making this film, Jesse, for you the equivalent of placing a stone of remembrance on a grave? In other words, a way of marking?
That's so generous that you should, put it that way. I guess it is in some ways. I mean, I try to write like about anything I'm interested in, so like, because I write personal stuff, my next movie's about a musical theater. So like, so I try, like, I just kind of, so with this, it was like, oh, I'm just writing about all the stuff I know, but I guess if I step back from it and think about it, yeah, it does have like, I guess, yeah, just this special place for my family. I wish my Aunt Doris, who died at like 106, was still alive to see it and understand that it was kind of like made in her honor, and and thinking about her and her life. And yeah, I guess it is. I guess I don't feel comfortable thinking about it that way because it seems so, I don't know, special, precious. But I guess it is.
But it feels like that.
Yeah.
It feels like you have made a certain kind of peace
Thank you.
with a past in Poland.
That's so nice of you
And
to
that's
say.
not easy to do, I think.
That's so nice.
Could we raise the lights, because we have time for a few questions from the audience? I see one very fast hand that went up in the middle, and I'll repeat so that everybody can hear.
Oh, wow.
An associate producer on The Gathering from 1999.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like my first like kind of part in a thing like that. Yeah, with Theodore Bickel. Yeah, exactly. Okay. It's okay, take your time. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah.
I'm going to share the comment as far as I got all of it.
It's okay.
Most of you heard it. But just as a daughter of a Holocaust survivor who survived 4 camps, including Majdanek and Auschwitz and the Death March, gratitude for this film that manages to balance humor with the pain, the sense of loss. I don't remember the exact words that you used, but that you felt from this great movie, right? I got that?
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so nice.
Okay, is there another hand up? I'm having trouble seeing from here.
In the back of the...
In the back. Oh, yes, thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. It's obvious you have a very personal connection and a personal story that made you want to tell this story. I wonder if there was any sort of statement also you were trying to make on a more societal level, or if this was purely a personal passion project.
Were you trying to make any sort of more social or larger statement than the personal aspects of the film that you were making?
I mean, I tend to not think that like movies should be making some kind of declarative things, or at least the movies I like don't really make any kind of declarative statements. But it's the goal of telling a story about characters that are so specific that you can perhaps take away some kind of question. One of the questions I'm posing in the movie, which is the title, is like, what kind of pain is valid? My character has like kind of medicated OCD and and general anxiety, and Kieran's character is dealing with something that's much more dark and real. And then we take these two characters who you kind of feel some modern day sympathy for or pity for, and then you put them against the backdrop of this much bigger pain. And I guess I'm trying to kind of ask the question, how do we reconcile these two things? These kind of the small pains of modern irritations, modern day life, even modern day real pain, which is what Kieran's going through, and against something so unbelievably, impossibly horrific. And so I'm trying to pose that question, but I don't have an answer. I guess if I did, it would have been maybe like an essay or something rather than a movie, something like that. Would have been a great essay. No, I don't know. I just mean like, I don't know. It's the wrong medium for it, I think.
Okay, I see 2 hands are on the right and 1 on the left here. So we'll start with the woman who's, long hair.
Obviously, it seems like the way that you went about filming this and the places that you visited were incredibly important to the film. Was there any place that you couldn't film that would have changed the script at all, or how you saw the film?
Is there anything that he could not film?
Were there any areas or places, like you just mentioned going into the context?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I don't think there was anywhere where we couldn't film except the Radisson. No, I'm like, think whenever I'm working on something, my instinct is to just beg people for stuff. Not stuff that they don't want to give me. I just like reach out to anybody. I'll write to like the manager of a hotel, not the Radisson, but I'll manage, can you please just let us shoot here? Please, this is what this story's about. Because when you're making an independent film, if you're not like just desperately reaching out to anybody who has any connection to anything you need, the film won't work. Like when you're making a Hollywood movie, you can just pay enough to kind of get what you want. But for a movie like this, no. And so I just begged everywhere we were, yeah. And this one restaurant, the restaurant scene, that we were using their name, Mandragora. It's this great restaurant in Krakow until they realized what the scene was. And there's like all these jokes about the owners of the restaurant. And once they read the script, they were like, thank you so much for filming here. Don't use our name. So, yeah.
Okay, there was one over here, and then I'll come back there.
Thank you both for being here. Jesse, it's clear that this subject matter is very close to home. I'm curious, Kieran, if you were like anxious or like there was any trepidation going into this like subject matter, being a little bit removed from the history.
Did Kieran have any trepidation going into this world of Poland, a background that he had no connection to?
I mean, I didn't. I read the script and connected with this character, and I thought he wrote something beautiful, and I thought if there was any way I can contribute to that, I wanted to be a part of it. I almost feel like, I wonder if that was more a question for you, if that was ever going to be an issue.
Very, very briefly, and then when I considered what Kieran brings for a movie that, to me, I know better than anybody because it's in my head. There is not a better person on the planet that could have embodied the role, and he's giving me and my family's history, such an unbelievable gift for embodying this role so brilliantly and allowing me to tell this story exactly the way I want to tell it.
Thank you.
Yes, right there.
Nice.
Jesse, this is more towards you.
Okay.
Myself, I wanted to know, since you wrote this about your family and you know the saying, write what you know.
Yeah.
Was it challenging at all to write this film and finding ways, and what was ways to overcome those challenges?
Were there challenges writing the script about something that you know, and how did you deal with overcoming those challenges in writing?
No, thank you so much for your question. And I'm not sure what your experience is. I'll just say mine. The more personal something is for me, the easier it is to write. I find myself banging my head against the table when I'm trying to write something that I don't know anything about. To me, it's like, just a complete impossibility. I know people do it really well. It just, for me, like, it's just not my skill set. Maybe it will be when I'm older. John Patrick Shanley said, like, you spend the first half of your career writing about stuff you know, and the second half writing about stuff you don't know. And so I don't know if that means you run out of things to write about, or just that you develop such a craft that you kind of can take on, more far-flung things. But no, for me, this was, once I kind of figure out what the thing is, it flows out because it's in my head. And, I've been thinking about it for 10 years in other ways, and I've had discussions with my family about it. And then so by the time it's actually a written scene, it feels like, oh yeah, this is exactly accurate,
Yes, go right ahead.
So Jesse, you've obviously worked with such amazing directors like David Fincher, Noah Baumbach, Woody Allen. Is there anything that you learned from them while you were an actor that helped you prepare to direct this film? Did you seek any advice from them performing this film, or anything that you saw that you were like, wow, I remember when I was an actor for that, I should use that for this scene when I'm directing, something like that?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked that question. That would have been my next question until I realized I got to open it up. Namely, Jesse has worked with major directors, including David Fincher and Woody Allen. From which ones did you learn, as an actor, more about making yourself a director?
Well, our cinematographer, so Woody Allen is popular in Poland, but actually our cinematographer, who's this brilliant Polish cameraman, had never seen any of his movies, and so I gave him Crimes and Misdemeanors, and I said, I want the shooting to feel like this: longer takes, character-driven stories, simplicity in composition. And I remember he said he watched like a half an hour, and he watched a half an hour. I was like, okay, you're gonna finish? And he goes, no, I get it. And and that was it. That was it. And then he would like reference the movie a lot. I was like, you saw a half an hour. And he would be like, I like this tree because of crimes and misdemeanors. You saw a half an hour. So, but he's really great, you know. So, yeah.
By the way, I want everyone to know this. His name is Michał Dymek, D-Y-M-E-K. He was the cinematographer 2 years ago, the film Io by Jerzy Skolimowski
So cool.
about the
donkey.
donkey, which was amazingly shot. And by the way, just a reminder, Woody Allen has been smart enough to use some of the greatest European and other cinematographers in the world, notably Vittorio Storaro.
Yep.
And it's not
Almost
surprising.
Sigmund, yeah. He's just worked with the best, cinematographers, but always not exploiting them for their you know, pomp and circumstance, but rather for their simplicity.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yes, on the right.
This is for each of you. What's a question that you haven't gotten about this film that you'd like to answer?
What is a
That
question,
one.
both of you, that you haven't gotten about this film but would like to?
I've answered it.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question. I've been waiting on that one.
I don't really have anything. I never think about talking about it. You know, it's such a weird thing. You make this thing because you have all these thoughts, and then the thing is the thoughts. And then, you know, you talk about it because it's kind of like a promotional thing, or in the case of talking to Annette, it's this wonderful cultural exchange because she's brilliant and interested in all this stuff. But for the most part, you're doing interviews where you're basically there to say the name of the movie and the date it comes out. And then there's kind of all this stuff around that feels like, okay, I just got to wade through this stuff. And, you know, but basically, I don't intend to talk about it ever, which is why I made it. I'm not like a lecturer or an academic. The only thing I know, the extent of my knowledge about anything in the world is in the movie, because yeah, that's all I know about.
You're good at talking about
Okay,
it,
we
though.
have
Yeah.
time for a quick
You're
one
not
here. Go right
Short
ahead.
on words.
Were there
Into the- into
aspects
this?
of Roman, Roy, that you transferred into Benji?
My face and voice.
Okay, this has to be the last one. Go right ahead. Did you conceive of Benji's character as having bipolar
I
disorder?
got that question the other day.
Did you?
Yeah. What'd you say? I said you have to ask Jesse that, so thank you.
Was it you that asked him the other day? No, I mean, you know, I mean, there are, you know, I don't know. No, I mean, certainly no is the answer, like in terms of like a specific, you know, DSM codification of this person. No. But like, you know, in a way, he's more than anything, he's like the kind of thing I envy in other people. He's, you know, he's charming, he's gregarious. He even feels his own pain in a way that's more profound than I, Jesse, feel my own pain. Like, and so in a way, it's just like, he's like a, you know, platonic inversion of my male ideal or something. I don't know. It probably speaks more to my own psychology than the psychology of him. Yeah.
I think it has to do with the actor who embodies Benji, because as I was quoting from Owen Gleiberman, whatever it is that might lead me to kind of move away from Benji in a personal situation right on, it's what leads me to utterly embrace him on screen, where I don't have to worry about my personal space being invaded in
Right,
any
got
way.
it. Yeah.
That's why you're sitting over there.
But really, it's compelling work. I just,
Thank you.
we are at the end of time. I just want to say how grateful I am, not only that you've come here tonight to talk about the movie, but that you've made this really smart and irreverent, but ultimately very reverent film.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Annette.
Yay.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.